Hello, welcome to the channel. Now this vlog is a little bit of a slight background history vlog on myself. When I started this channel in 2018, which is 5 years ago this month, let's put it this way, I did a bit of an introduction to myself and it was really dull and really boring, and don't remark on that. And anyway, it wasn't the best. And I always thought I'll redo a new one day. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a new one. And this is it. So without further ado, I shall show you that how I got my interest in the caravan industry and how in 2018 I set the channel up with only because a friend of mine kept saying for years, you want to get on YouTube, and I just didn't want anything to do with it. Anyway, that was history. Anyway, let's move on. And let's start the video. And this is where it all started. For the first few years of my life, I was here. This used to be a newsagent. This was my parents, and originally it was my grandparents bought in the 1930s. Mum and Dad took the business over, and my grandparents then retired. And what did they do? They went and bought a 1950s Willoughby Caravan. And where they stored it, they couldn't store it at home. They stored it across the road over here. Then in those days there was an old workshop and a bit of spare ground, and that's where they used to store the caravan. Now a year or two later, I can remember going with my grandparents looking at caravans, and that's where I got the bug. They eventually bought a brand new 1962 Sprite Musketeer, and again it was stored across the other side of the road there, and then it was used to go touring, and they used to go down the New Forest, all over the country. They loved it. So that's where I got the bug of the caravan from. And the next part of the story, well, we need to move on. This is where I came to live. Further up the road from where I was before, but nowhere to put a caravan. That didn't matter, because it was my grandparents that had the caravan, not my mum and dad. But grandparents decided that they were going to give the caravan up, and said to mum and dad, do you want the caravan? And my dad said, no, I don't want to tow a caravan, no way. So we didn't, and the caravan got sold. But there was another twist to the story. This, as I say, was number 13 where I lived. Unlucky for some, as you say, and I spent many a time out here cleaning my motorbike. I was into motorbikes then. And this is still at the same gate and the same gate post, and the concrete there, that was a bit of crazy paving style concrete that Mum had put down as her pride and joy to have down instead of flagstones. I used to, as I say, bring my motorbike in and clean it. Let's go on. Right, well, what happened next was we went away on a family holiday in bank holiday 1969, couldn't get any bed and breakfast, came back home after a couple of days. Dad said, do you know what, we should have had that caravan with my parents. So Mum said, well, why don't we go and get one? And that's exactly what we did. We didn't have anywhere to store it, but back in the day we could store it on the street at the top here. Because Dad and Grandad went and lived in this bungalow, got this bungalow, and what we did in winter time when the caravan wasn't in use, and this was a major job it turned out to be. Don't forget, no movers in those days. We had to bring it down here. Now the first caravan was a new 1969 Eldest Tornado, which was 12'6" long, 6'6" wide. So getting it round here wasn't too bad. But we were then upgraded to an Eldest Cyclone, which was 14'6" long and still 6'6" wide, but obviously the extra length made that big difference. Now at the back here, they built, obviously the owners of years ago put trees in and things, but this was all clear, but it was just these gates, and we had to all get about 3 or 4 of us, and we'd have to push the van down here and then turn it round and watch it as we went through the gate posts there. And we put the caravan there around the back. We decided after some years of doing that, after a year or two of doing that, that was a lot of hassle. So what was the involvement? Well, back then Dad used to get the Caravan magazine and Practical Caravan magazine, and I started reading them. We used to go to lots of dealers, pick up brochures, and I just got really interested in the industry. But when did I get my Caravan? Well, it would be some years later. Mum and Dad got rid of theirs in 1978 and got a static, and it would be 7 years later that I went and bought my own. Let's go on to the next part of the story. Well, just on that shot I was telling you about how we used to get the Caravan around the back and how we used to leave it. This is where this car is actually, at the side of the road, and this was my grandparents' house. Now, they died in '76. We've just been filming, and the guy just came out who actually owned the house and wondered what we were doing, and quite rightly so. A neighbour had just asked him, had just told him that two guys were outside his house filming, so he wondered what it was about. But anyway, we had a great chat with him, and he was quite interested to be telling him about how the bungalow used to look, etc. But yes, this is where we used to park the Caravan, and in the very high winds, I remember one lunchtime, just a little bit of an antidote here, is that what you call it? And the wind had blown the Caravan out in the middle of the road, and I remember us having to pull the van back in, get the legs really wound down so it wouldn't move as much, and I was late for school, and I had to tell my teacher I was late because I had to help my mum and dad move the Caravan because the wind blew it. Think about that one. When I went to secondary school, I got quite known for being a bit mad on the old Caravans. Literally, one day I had some Caravan brochures in my satchel, and I was looking at them in lesson, and the teacher said to me, "What have you got there, Jenkinson?" And I went, "Caravan brochures, sir, bring them out here." He looked at them, he kept them, went back to my desk. After the lesson, I went to go and collect them again, see if he'd let me have them. "Yes," he said, "you can have them. Very interesting. But what's it all about? What do you like?" And I just said, "I don't know, sir. It's one of those things." From that day on, I got to be known by some of the teachers, especially my careers teacher, because I wanted to go into the caravan industry then, for being a bit of a knowledge on caravans, and I didn't know anywhere near the amount of stuff that I've got to know over the years. So when I went to my school, which was a secondary school, which is Montgomery, which I'm going to show you now, that's where it all began. When I was the grand old age of 11, I went to this school, Montgomery High School, Bisping, opened by no less than Field Marshal Montgomery in 1959. I came here in 1969, and I found out one or two teachers actually had caravans, and that was quite a good conversation at some of the school breaks. But I became known with my careers teacher wanting to get in the caravan industry, and I had to give a talk once on a careers lesson on your interests, and you guessed it, it was caravans. Amazingly, the other kids actually, instead of taking a mick like I thought they would do, were quite interested. I even did several essays on it. Anyway, that's the part of the story. When I was 16, I was going to work for a company called Pemberton Caravans, who had a factory at Blackpool. Unfortunately, in 1974, the downturn came, and the job I was promised just never happened. And I ended up spending 28 years in all things the toy industry. Well, less said about that, the better. So, I wanted to get involved with caravans. And I was sort of not going to be able to get into. I wanted to do designs. I wonder I'll do a new video on some of the caravans I designed when I was about 17. That I designed in the late 70s and had evaluations by manufacturers. But anyway, that will leave to another video. I got very interested, and when I used to go around dealers, I used to give a bit of knowledge and what have you, and they say, "Hey, you know, are you in the trade?" And I say, no, I said, "I wasn't trained. You seem to know rather a lot." Anyway, fast forward and to 1987, I bought a caravan. My first new tourer was an ABI Road from what was the then Big Dave Barron Caravans dealership. They used to have one in Blackpool. I used to cycle down there in the 70s. And again, taking all in what was happening with the caravan industry. Got to know Michael Hold, who I still know now all these years later, who has Adventure Leisure up near T-Bay. And what we got talking, he said, "Oh, you know a lot about caravans. You should be doing something about it." Anyway, fast forward to the early 90s, and he said, "Look, you want to be doing some caravan writing magazine." So I'd written a odd letter saying about certain things in the industry. And I used to get them printed. Anyway, I thought, so what am I going to do? Well, what do I know about? Well, I knew more about classic caravans, old caravans, and I had lots and lots and lots of information. And in those days, you could still find old caravans in most people's driveways. All you had to do, of course, was knock on the door and hopefully they were receptive. Early 90s, I decided to come up with this idea of contacting magazines regarding a feature idea. And this feature idea was called Classic Caravans. And because I've had all the background and all the knowledge and still fast accumulating that knowledge, I decided to contact the editors, and one Eric Fowler, who used to be the editor of Practical Caravan at one stage, was the editor of a magazine called Caravan Life, a brilliant magazine that sadly finished back in the 2000s, and it was a great magazine. I enjoyed that magazine a lot, and it was very popular. And I gave him the idea, and he came back and he said, "Yeah, I'll take it." And I think my first one was about Cheltenham Caravans, which is quite a very sort of well-known classic caravan. And I started that feature, I think it was a page and a half, and I got to do some more. And then I got involved with doing new caravans, which my first new caravan was the very first Van Master caravan built. And by this time, the editor changed to Stuart Craig. Stuart Craig, who I've known for many, many years and still actively involved with, actually. Stu just said, "Yes, we'll keep sending them, and also, you know, do you want to do some used stuff?" So that's how I started. By the sort of mid-90s, I'd actually started to write for Practical Caravan, again, doing a bit of used stuff, a bit of classic stuff, and then I started doing new reviews for them too. And a bit for Caravan magazine and the Caravan Club and the Camping Caravan Club, and so it went on. By sort of 96, 97, I'd already had this idea about doing a book called Veloci Publishing, and the chap there had been ex-Haynes manuals guy, and I took the idea to him, and we called it British Trailer Caravans. And he said, "Yeah, fire away, we'll get on with it." And we did it from 1919 to 1959, and then another follow-up book, 1960 to the present, which was then 1999, which is now 25 years ago nearly. So, consequently, did those two books. They sold quite well, and we went into a reprint. This time, of course, I was doing more and more magazine work, and also I did a bit of TV stuff. Something I'd rather forget. But anyway, we all make mistakes at times. And some radio workers too. So it was quite good just to get interviews and that type of thing, doing a lot of stuff for the Caravan Club magazine. Really, yeah, it was good. And I decided I wanted to write some more books, and I wrote another one for Veloci called The Top 100 Best Used Caravans, which had limited sales because I used to tell people what to go looking for on used caravans and particular brands, you know, whether they're leaked or whatever. So I don't think it was a hit with some dealers at the time. But anyway, produced that, and then I got involved with Michelin Guides. I did the I Spy caravans and motorhomes, and then it just started to really roll from there on. Really, I just started to write more books, and till I got up to 16 books, which I have present now. So the industry, I've got to know many people. I started going into the static caravan side of things back again really in the late 90s, because parents had owned a static, sisters had owned a static. I'd had interest in the static side of things, so it was a natural progression. And also I'd been doing a bit of motorhome stuff as well. Used motorhomes in about 1997, and again I did a motorhome book, a story of the story of motorhomes for Veloci, because I found that side of things very interesting as well. And again, as a kid, I'd sort of looked at them but not really taken a lot of interest in them. It was still caravans for me. And it still is, but they are still interested in motorhomes. And so anyway, that was how it all started. So, whiz forward now to 2023, 16 books, writing another 2 at the moment, and hopefully get them done. Started up the YouTube channel. Again, friends kept saying to me, oh, years and years ago, you know, you get on the YouTube, get on YouTube, yeah, and I wouldn't do it. You know what it's like. People tell you things, you just think, you know what, I don't know if I can be bothered to do that. You know, I was too involved with the magazines. But anyway, 2018 we saw the launch of the YouTube channel. We've nearly just 47 short of 4,000 subscribers. But yes, books, collected loads of stuff, loads of archives over the years. I've travelled hundreds of miles to pick up just a few bits and pieces. So that's it. That's the end of the bio. I hope you've enjoyed it, and give it a thumbs up if you have. Please subscribe, and that tells you all about, basically, in a nutshell, without rabbiting on for too long, how I've started to do the YouTube channel, the books, the magazines, and all my vast many years I've had in this industry, which I think really puts me above, and I don't want to sound this in a very bad way, maybe a little bit ahead in the fact is that I've got so many years knowledge. So a lot of people come on to me, ask me things about caravans or whatever, the industry, even people within the industry come on. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video. Lots of new van things coming up, so please like and subscribe. See you on the next one. Thanks for watching and being patient. That's the main thing, isn't it? Being patient.